stop watching the news.
Huh?
It is toxic for your mind as well as for your body.
Okay.
And you can stop watching the news and still not become an uninformed idiot.
Okay.
In fact, it is recommended that you should.
How do I stop watching the news and not become uninformed?
Okay. First of all, let us define what news means. Okay. What is news?
News is stuff that happens in the world that I need to know about.
Okay. That is one definition of news.
Okay.
Things you should know about to be a responsible global citizen.
Okay.
Right? A different definition of news is the things they show on news channels and newspapers.
Okay, I get you.
You realize they're two different things.
They are.
Right?
Yeah.
The first one is like probably 1 or 2% of the second one.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to be clear on which news we are talking about. Right? I asked this question. I suggested on X, Twitter, that stop watching the news. And there was a big argument because half the people were talking about the first kind of news and the other half were talking about the second kind of news, right?
I like the name X Twitter because it's no longer Twitter.
Yes.
It's now X Twitter.
So,
go on.
Here is the thing. Sure, the first kind of news, which you should know, right? That's all good and you should be aware of that and all that. We can all agree on it.
Correct.
But most of the news on news channels, newspapers, is the second kind, which is bad for you. In fact, it is making you less informed.
Wait, how is it making me less informed? It is still news.
Okay, let's take an example, right? Comes from N.N. Taleb, the philosopher and investor.
Okay.
So suppose a car goes over a bridge and the bridge collapses.
Ooh,
right?
Sad.
Like a huge amount of the news is going to be about who that person was and what his family is like and what the make of the car was and a whole bunch of things, right? The things that really need to be discussed, structural reasons, like how did the system that we have set up to prevent this from happening, why did it fail? That will all be a little vague, won't even be discussed in detail, right?
But human life is important and from a journalistic background, focusing on the human life, telling the story of the human life allows you to draw in the attention, which then you can direct towards the structural reasons
first
and
of all,
public policy.
You are just explaining why this news sucks. You are not saying, right?
Okay.
That if you tell the things that are important, nobody will pay attention. I completely agree.
Okay.
Right? That is why the news sucks and you should stop watching it. Right?
Okay.
So take a different set of things, right?
Okay.
News causes us, why it is making you less informed, is that it is causing us to have a very wrong impression of what the real risks out there in the world are. Right? Like, for example, when you go out on your vehicle, you are worried about an accident.
Yeah.
Right? More likely you are going to die of the pollution. Right? But the accident is exciting and makes headlines. The pollution, most of the days it doesn't, except
pollution kills for a longer term. Accident kills right now.
Same thing. Terrorism, right? Huge news items kills a tiny number of people. Okay. Whereas,
but it's the terrorism part that is the news, not the...
No, it's the terrorism part which is engaging and interesting to people, but it is not the news you should know in this much detail.
Okay.
Right? So other examples here are collapse of Lehman Brothers or Malia, right? That is over big news. But just generally the NPA of banks and all that is like, the boring news most people don't read about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Astronauts, big news. Nurses, boring.
Astronauts are important. They are the next generation of explorers. Once there were sailors, now there are astronauts.
Without the nurses, there won't be a next generation. Okay.
I'm not saying nurses are not important. I'm saying astronauts are also important. You can't call them overrated.
Yeah, but the news, if you read the news, you will think that only astronauts are important. Right? That's the problem with the news.
Okay.
And generally, the idea of risk is wrong. Right? Think about it. Everyone thinks that the world is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Right? Over the last 30, 40, 50 years. We did an entire episode on this proving that the world is actually getting better. It's just that the news is getting worse. Okay? So take a look at that episode.
Yeah.
So here is the problem with the news. Right? Like imagine somebody investing in the stock market.
Okay.
Okay. So the news is like the every little movement, second by second movement of the stock market. Oh my God, it is up. Oh my God, it is down. Oh my God, it is up. Oh my God, it is down. Reading the news is like a day trader in a world where mutual funds sahi hai. Right? You put it in a mutual fund and you forget it for 2 years. You're not supposed to look at them.
Naveen, congratulations. You managed to successfully piss off both our stock market enthusiasts and our news enthusiasts by just one example. Well done.
Well, if you want to piss off, there are more people, right? News is like sugar. Okay, it makes us feel good, it is easy to digest, and it gives us diabetes in the long term.
But wait, sugar actually affects health and
Yes.
it has been proven.
Yes, news also affects your health.
You said that in the beginning. I want
Yes.
to know how.
First of all, let's start with the fact that news makes you depressed.
Okay.
Right? There is news about genocide,
Yeah.
right, all over the world,
Currently.
and a lot of the news will be wrong,
Okay.
or I mean, at least it will be some biased reporting showing just one side of the story, right?
Okay.
And the people on the news talking about it and just going on and giving like very strong opinions will usually be very uninformed people. The real experts who really understand what's going on in the ground there are not the ones talking on the news. They are quietly doing things in the background. Okay. Understanding what every little detail of what's going on out there in Palestine and Israel and all of that, right?
Ukraine and Russia as well. Still
Yeah.
happening
Right?
as of this
It doesn't really change your life a whole lot. Okay, there's nothing you can do about it other than just getting stressed and depressed about it, right? And when I say stressed, it is actually causing surges of corticosteroids in your body, and those corticosteroids are causing your body to do things like slow down digestion, don't produce insulin, and make the fat cells bigger and things like that. It's actually changing your body. Okay.
Wow. So news is technically worse than sugar in that sense.
Oh yeah, it is also affecting your immune system. So very likely that if you're like continuously a news junkie and getting stressed with the news, you are prone to getting infections more often.
Okay, that is interesting. I do remember when I was a heavy doom scroller during the pandemic, there was a serious bout of depression that I went through just looking at all the doom and gloom on my timelines.
Yeah.
But here's my worry. If, say, I take your advice and I stop watching the news,
Yeah.
won't I become a frog in the well?
Yeah. So, I mean, the point is that I am saying stop watching the news channels and newspapers, right? Stop consuming everything that they are throwing at you. Okay. You
fair.
still want to be informed of that tiny percent of important news. So you have to figure out ways of filtering your inputs. Okay. So what I do is I follow a few people on Twitter and on some WhatsApp groups where I know that sensible people who only forward the important news. Okay, I subscribe to a few newsletters and I read those religiously. And those are people who will look at all the news from the last 1 week and then talk about just the 4 items that are worth talking about, right?
So you basically curate your news through curators of the news.
Yes. So for me, I'm very thankful to those people that they are like the soldiers standing on our borders, right? They are taking the risks so that I don't have to, of all the toxicity of the news.
And you should get this curated newsletter from Naveen called FutureIQ. We'll drop a link in the show notes in the description. Brilliant newsletter. Really writes well.
Right. So, I mean, basically the point is instead of spending 90 minutes on the news every day, you probably want to spend 5 minutes. Okay. You will be much better informed.
Okay, but fair. I curate the news. I look at certain news sources. Will I stay informed though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I find that I am actually more informed than my friends who actually watch the news a lot.
You mentioned WhatsApp groups, and WhatsApp groups have been known to be centers of disinformation. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so again, I stay away from WhatsApp groups where most of the discussion is around the news as it is. Right? I only stick to the ones which are discussing the news as it should be, right? The important ones. I stay away from the other groups. So you need to curate your WhatsApp groups also.
That is actually the big question, because how do you curate a WhatsApp group?
I mean, it's the same thing. How do you curate? Should I follow this person or not? Should I subscribe to this newsletter or not? And should I be on this WhatsApp group or not? Just look at what fraction of the stuff in there is like just daily news items that sound exciting but are not useful, and what fraction will be useful even 1 year from now. Or conversely, look at what was being discussed in there 1 year ago and see how much of it is still useful and relevant. Right?
Good point. Although,
Or
when
1 month.
most WhatsApp groups that I was referring to are in the disinformation category or the misinformation category,
And stay away from all of those.
yeah, but then they become echo chambers and they fester lots of nonsense things. But yeah, there is other ways to deal with them.
Yes.
He's right though. And he's always right. He's Naveen. I am Srikanth. So what is our takeaway for this episode?
1, stop obsessing over current news items, right? Most of them are like, hourly stock market updates.
Yeah.
In the long run, they do not matter, right?
Yeah.
So stop focusing on current events, focus on voltage events. Okay.
High voltage events.
Figure out ways of staying informed briefly. 5 minutes a day should be enough, right? And of course, if you find a topic which is going to be of interest for a very long time, then you can go into the depth there. Focus on depth rather than just knowing little about a large number of things.
But I want to show off among friends. Thankfully, I have this wonderful channel called FutureIQ where I get to learn a lot of things.
And you can show off with depth. You don't have to show off with breadth, right? Focus on things which are important, not urgent.
Oh, that's interesting. Important, not urgent. Reminds me of the Heisenberg matrix.
Yes.
Look it up. Important, not urgent. Urgent requires action, right?
Correct.
And if you can't take that action, then it's not urgent for you. It's urgent for someone else.
Exactly. That's one of the most important things as far as news is concerned. And if you liked what we are talking about, keep in mind that all of this is happening because bad news is stronger than good news. So we have done an entire episode on bad is stronger than good, how it applies in a whole lot of other areas. Check it out.